Welcome back, Dr. Troy Dukowitz, and here we are, your bonus tips for, drumroll please, September. Remember, we've got 2 tips for you this month, and the first of those tips is what I call, very simple, very easy, the recap. Now, why is this so important? Because so many times we get caught up in so many different things, and even with patient education, we get caught up in nailing that tip and talking about that tip, that we have to remember there's real people sitting in front of us. And so we're trying to, if you haven't noticed by now, we're trying to create this habit that you're constantly focusing your energies about bringing the story back around to their health, bringing the story back around to chiropractic, bringing the story back around to empowering them about what's possible in their lives and in their health. The recap is a twofold opportunity. Opportunity number 1, it's a pattern interrupt. You ever have Agnes hop off the table and talk about her hemorrhoids that she's had, but she's got to tell you every detail possible? It's a pattern interrupt. Agnes, although I love hearing about your hemorrhoids, we need to have a talk here because I did something today that I want you to focus on. I adjusted you this way and I wanted you to focus on this. Here's what I found today and I want you to focus on this. It's just a recap of what you did today. Here's what I did. Here's how it affects you. Here's how it would affect others if there's interference in that area. Now, I know people get tied up and, I don't want to talk about symptoms, but it opens up the opportunity to have a conversation about this. And if you remember, in week 2, if you use the autopsy reports, you know that there was direct correlation on nerve interference in organs. So, you can have that discussion, folks. It's okay. Even when patients look at a nerve chart, and if you have nerve charts in your office as you talk about a recap. So look, here's the deal. I adjusted you up here today. I haven't adjusted the upper cervical spine since probably your first visit. That's 2 months ago. So this has been an area that has held really well for us, but I found today that you were subluxated there. Now let's just review this real quick though. If you look at the spine chart here, what do we know? Here's the upper cervical spine. Here's where those nerves go to, and here's some of the possible symptoms with nerve system interference. Now here's what I expect of you over the course of the next 24, 36, 48 hours. You might notice an increase in energy. You may notice you have an amazing night's sleep tonight. I want you to pay attention to that, but I also want you to go home and make sure, in our office, we use moist heat. I want you to make sure you do your moist heat and deep breathing. Why? Because it's an area I haven't adjusted before. And just like working out, if you haven't worked out for quite a while, when you get back into it, sometimes you feel a little bit sore. That's completely okay. It's just your body responding and showing us, hey, we did the work. So that's an opportunity, folks, for us to just recap, to trace. Here's where it goes. Here's what it is. Here's what I found. Here's what I did. Here's what it looks like on that nerve chart. It's a great way to really hone in your education to a specific area that day. Now, what's important here is if you know Agnes has a husband who has migraine headaches, then I'm going to stick in that upper cervical spine and I'm going to talk about that. If you know that somebody in her family has problems with energy and focus, right? Like I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to trace. Why? Because that opens up the opportunity for what? A referral. We open up the opportunity for a referral. It's why I love doing things like this. I love using nerve charts as we did last month. I love using the recap because it opens up an opportunity. If you've been listening and you're listening to your patients when they talk, they always share with you a story about someone who needs to get in. This allows you to refocus your energy, not only 1, helping to educate your patient, but 2, seeing if we can't get that person through the doors. So that is tip number 1. Bonus tip number 1 is the recap. Bonus tip number 2. Bonus tip number 2 is, well, what did we say? We were going to do dime week, not dime bag, dime week. And what does that mean? It means that you're going to have a container sitting on your desk filled with dimes. And every person that comes in will get that dime. Every person will take that dime, put it on the back of their hand when they go lay down on the table. If they're laying on their back, it's very simple. Boom, they just lay it right there until the doctor comes in. The doctor can then come in and start to stimulate the conversation around this tip. If they lay on their stomach and they have their hands down, it's fine. They go ahead, put the dime on the back of their hand. They are instructed to put the dime on the back of their hand. It now opens up the very important conversation, which if you want to use the tip instead of the dimes or do both, you also have the tip of the week. Now, what are we talking about here? What do we know? What we do know is that the weight of the dime on the back of the hand, which is equal to 10 millimeters of mercury, okay, is enough pressure to cause up to a 66% decrease in the function of the spine. Think about that. We always talk about these big drastic changes in the nerve system, and it doesn't take that much. It takes just that weight of a dime on the back of the hand. And what I often do when I've done this is I ask people to leave it there. I say, if that was there long enough, would you even know that it was there? And they normally tell me, I can't even tell it's there now. Because it's not heavy. It's not something that is noticeable, like maybe a watch or like if I were to go put a brick on their hand, right? It's not noticeable. The reason I have that conversation is because that's what's scary, Mary. What's scary is the fact that people have that interference in their body and they don't even know it. And their bodies are deteriorating and they're breaking down. Why do you think people say you're supposed to fall apart as you grow old? Because they have this interference and they never do anything about it. So in people's 20s and 30s, they run rampant. They just go for it. And then all of a sudden they start to get older and they say, man, I'm falling apart. I feel like everything's falling apart. No, the problem is that we never took care of our bodies in the first place. Imagine what would happen if we were to go ahead and to adjust the spine and remove that interference, to allow that nerve flow to freely flow through the body so you can be as healthy as possible. Isn't that a better way to live? So we remove the dime. You take the dime off the back of the hand. And now they go, yeah, I could tell it was there. What I do as a chiropractor is to adjust the spine to help to increase that nerve system flow, to help the body to get everything that it needs. So this is a great tip. This is really one of my favorite tips. I see probably a lot of you will use this month because it's worth being used. Or you might put it in your back pocket and say, man, we're going to pull that one out in another month. But this as a bonus tip is a fantastic tip. It's experiential because you have the dimes and it opens up this conversation about a decrease in function. You're still talking brain, you're still talking spinal cord, you're still talking nerve system. It gives you this overall concept to be able to talk about. So that's bonus tip number 2. So that's what I've got for you this week. Make sure that you talk to your docs about this. You've already looked at the schedule. You know, which way do we want to go? Do we want to throw any of these in there? And if you do, those are your 2 bonus tips that are available at your disposal for the month of September. So I hope you found this helpful. Remember, our focus here is what? Increase patient certainty so we can increase patient retention. I'm Dr. Troy Dukowitz. This has been September's bonus tips. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.